So this is our review for the final test. So it's on chapters 12 and 13. So chapter 12, of course, is statistics. And some of the things we did, a lot of the things we did were online, but we can do a few things. Test, John. So the first thing we can talk about is mean, and median. So we had, a number of homework problems associated with these two. So the way that I would test you on mean is I would give you a reasonable number of values, and I'm just going to use a small amount, but so here's 4 numbers. I might give you more than 4 numbers, but you would find the sum of these 4 numbers, or however many numbers there are, and you would divide by the number of data points. So I'm just doing that right now. So we get an average. So the mean, we use x with a bar over top of it to represent mean, 5.65. Okay, I'm sure you guys could do that. Now the median, what you would do is you would have a list of numbers, which I could have larger because I'm not asking you to add them together. And so for the median, what you would need to do is know, depending upon whether you have an even number or an odd number of data points, how to find the median, the value. So I'm not going to actually work out an example for it because you can go back. We did it with the computer. There's 2 cases. There's the even and there's the odd number. So when you have an even number of data points, you average the 2 middle values. And for an odd number, you just take the middle value, whatever that is. Okay. Now in terms of dispersion, we're going to use the standard deviation in some of our later calculations. So I could ask you here with this. So what I could do is ask you for the minimum and the maximum values, and that would give you, from those you could also calculate the range, which is one of the measures of dispersion. Okay, so so we had measures of position, which was z-score, which we use in section 5. So we're zooming ahead to section 5 now. And this is the normal distribution. So we did a lot of those and you did them by hand for the chapter 12 project. So there are, usually what these involve is, the easiest case is that you're given some mean and some standard deviation. I guess to be exactly like what we did. So let's say the mean's 70. Standard deviation is 6.2. And, I can ask you questions relative to, what percent of data or probability of having data between 2 values. So what you're given is well, you can be given anything relative to an inequality. So, the different things I could ask you is, the percent of data where x is greater than 72. I could do X is between 72 and 76. I could say, I could ask you greater than 70, but that one should be easy. Set greater than 70 or 70 is always 0.5 probability, or 50% of the data. That's a 70. X is greater than 70, X is less than 70. This one is you have, here's 72, so greater than 72 would be this area. So you take the area here and you subtract from 0.5. This one, so that's 72, 76. That's this area here, which would, you take the area from the mean to the first z-score and the area from the mean to the second z-score, and you take the difference. And you can do the same kind of thing on the other side. If you want to find something less than a value, then you have to subtract the area from 0.5 to find the tail. But like I said, I'm not going to go through this because you can go back and watch the video that we did for Chapter 12 project and make sure you understand it. And understand it enough that you can do it without having to have the video, because it's a test. The only other one that I haven't mentioned here was between two values, where the two values are on either side of the mean. So if you said 65 to 74, there you add them. So here, let's just talk about this one. This one would be 0.5 minus some number associated with the z-score 72. When they're both on the same side, you take the larger and subtract the smaller number. So you'd find a z-score associated with 72, which would give you the smaller area, and a z-score area associated with the z-score relative to 76. You get an area there, and you subtract the two. Here you would add the two values together, because one is on one side of the mean, the other one's on the other side of the mean. Remember, the z-score is x minus x bar over s. So in this case, I give you x bar, and I give you s, and then you use these numbers to calculate the z-scores. Okay, so that's Chapter 12. Chapter 13. So, compound interest. So that says that the amount is equal to the principal times 1 plus the interest rate divided by m, the number of compounding periods raised to the n power, where n is equal to m times t. T, number of years. So, m equals 1 for yearly compounding, m equals 4 for quarterly, m equals 12 for monthly. I could go to daily, but we're not going to worry about that, because by the time you go to daily, you could have continuous compounding. And this usually goes along with things like CDs. And there the amount is equal to the principal times E to the RT. So we don't have number of compounding periods because it goes to infinity. So in this case, R is interest rate, and it's got to be in a percent. It's a decimal, so 6% would be 0.06, and that's what we would use. We'd use the 0.06. T is time in years. P is how much money you put in there. installment loans. So we have done those, both of those. Let me add the compounding. This is just to kind of show you how it would work. And the reason I show the compounding versus the equations is because ultimately, if you want to do things in spreadsheets, you can be much more flexible in the situations you look at, the scenarios you look at, if you can kind of do it, if you understand the computer stuff. But we're going to create a table here, and I'll give you the initial amount, I'll give you the interest, and how often we compounding. So let's say it's compounded quarterly. So M is equal to 4. The yearly interest rate is, say, 8% or 0.08. And the principal is equal to $5,000. So we need a table that has month, or quarter, we'll say, quarter, and principal, interest. I think that's all we need. So we just need three columns. And so what we'll do is ask you to fill this out. I'll probably give you what the headings are. So this is quarter. This would be principal and interest. So first quarter, 0th quarter, which is what you start out with, $5,000. So what we'll say is at the end of the first quarter, we'll get some interest, and the interest is just equal to the principal times the interest rate, but you do it per period. So we have 5,000 times 0.08 divided by 4. 5,000 times 0.08 divided by 4 is $100. So that's my interest. And then your principal is going to be $5,100. So you add that in. You don't wait till the end of the term. And I don't even have how long the loan is, because it'll just keep going on until you decide to take it out. Okay, so the next calculation, interest. So that was for quarter 1. Quarter 2, we now have a larger principal multiplied by the same numbers. 5,100 times 0.08 divided by 4, $102. So we have $102. So you'd add that, you get $5,202. And you can keep doing that. Pretty simple calculation. Now, installment loans, you've got a payment. So I give you a payment. I give you the loan amount, and I give you the interest rate. So let's say the payment's $500. The loan is $25,000. Interest rate is 10%, which would be 0.10. And so I think we had 5 columns there. We had month, and installment loans are pretty much just monthly. Balance, interest, payment, excess. Okay, so I'd give you that. I'd give you the labels, the columns. So, and I could put them in a different order, so make sure you know what they mean and don't just copy it down. So month, principal, or balance, I guess we call it. It's not principal. Balance, interest, payment, excess. I'm going to start at month 0 again. Our balance $25,000. So we have to calculate the interest again. Same basic concept here. $25,000 times the yearly interest rate, 0.1 divided by number of payments per year. So 25,000 times 0.1 divided by 12. I get, oh, point Z, yeah, 0.1, that's right. The reason I am hesitating is because my interest is much higher than I expected. Oh, it's because I didn't enter my calculator right here. So $208.33. Okay, so that's my interest first month. My payment's $500. The difference between those two is my excess, $291.67. So then my balance is $25,000 minus the excess, which is $24,708.33. So that's after 1 month. Balance after 1 month. 25,000 minus minus 291.67, which is equal to 24,708.33. We do the net interest again. So it's going to be a little bit less because our balance has been lowered. So I get 205.9. Something's wrong. What did I do wrong earlier? 25,000. The reason I'm saying this is because this, oh, it's 205. How did I get? Oh, that's right. I was looking here. That's my confusion. So 205.90. Same payment. Take the difference between those two. Okay, let's put my calculator again. Got a little confused there. Subtract. So 500 minus 205.9 is 294. And so my balance is going to be this minus that. So I got 24,414.23. Okay, so those are the two things relating to the loans and compounding. So it's kind of the same thing. In a loan, you're getting credit for paying ahead of time. You're paying more than the interest. Here, you get credit for the interest, so your balance grows and you get more return. So with the same interest rates you have, your balance increases, so your interest keeps getting bigger. Okay, let's see if there's anything else that numerical wise that I need for you to remember. I don't think so. I could put a credit card average daily balance. Yeah, I might do that. So what I would do is I would give you most of the table filled out. We did that recently. So you have balance. I'd make it so it wasn't huge. Then you'd have your transaction over here, and then you would have you'd have to have a date as well. So you'd have the date, the balance, then you'd have number of days, and then you would have the product of these two. So let's say this is column 1, this is column 2, column 3. Remember, we multiplied 2 times 3, and you would get a number. So this is the product. Just call it the product. So it's date, balance, number of days, product. And so I probably would make it easy by just doing it from the first of the month and just have a limited number of transactions. And let's say 30 days has September, so it's going to be 30 days. And then, I'd give you balances. Now the number of days, this balance, let's just say, I'm going to make up some numbers here. So let's say the balance is 900, and then it's 950. So that means here I had a transaction of $50, and let's say it's 1,050. So it's another $100 transaction, and then I had $75 where I paid part of the bill. So that would be $975. And then I've got to go to 10-1. So I've got one more entry here. So I could give you that much. And what I would ask you to do is first you calculate the number of days. So you take 12 minus 1 is 11. 17 minus 12 is 5. 26 minus 17 is 9. And then you'd have the 26th to the 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 1st, so the 5 days. And if you add these numbers together, it should add up to 30. So 11 plus 9 is 20, plus 10 is 30. Okay, so that works out. So then you would multiply these numbers together. So you'd have 900 times 11, 9,900. So this is what you're doing. 950 times 5, 4750, 1050 times 9, 9450, and 975 times 5, 4875. Okay, so then you'd add those, so to get your average daily balance, you would add those together. So 9,900 plus 4750 plus 9450 plus 4875. You get $28,975 divided by 30 days, or however many days I give you, whatever month it is. 28,975 divided by 30. You get an average daily balance of 965.83. Okay, so that's your average daily balance. So that's one answer. And then you'd find your interest. So you take 965.83 and you would multiply by the interest rate. So let's say it's 15% interest. I have to give you that, yearly interest. So you take 0.15 times 30 divided by 365. 365.83 times 0.15 times 30 divided by 365, and you'd get 11.91. Okay, so that's your transaction here at the beginning of the billing cycle. So this would be 1191, and that's positive because it's going to increase your balance. So you put that, and then the final entry would be 1191 plus the balance just prior to the billing date. So you get that. So these are the things I would ask you for. What is the average daily balance? What is the interest, which you'd put here? And what is the balance for the next cycle? So I think that's a good thing to do. Okay, now here's some general concepts you've got to remember for and I'm going to do it according to savings. So there's going to be some general topics here. One's savings, one's car purchase, one's insurance, home ownership, and maybe retirement. So those are the topics. So from a savings standpoint, one thing we talked about was the 3 different main categories: cash, bonds, and stocks. And then you have the risk reward. So low risk, low reward, medium or middle for both of those, and high. And these are just some things that hopefully you'll agree with. So if I ask you a question, what is the most usual mechanism for saving for retirement that's not a pension plan? You would say 401ks, okay? Most likely savings mechanism. What would be the comments associated with this? Start ASAP. Okay, as soon as you get a job and a company has a 401k plan, probably smart to start it as soon as possible. Contribute to at least company match. Withdraw without penalty after 59.5. So the general wisdom is early, when you're younger and you're a long way from retirement, you should, so we'll say early stocks dominate. And usually a mutual fund is not a bad idea. Even safer is usually index funds. And another one is the retirement target date. Because what the retirement target date thing it will automatically adjust the percentage of your investment in stocks and bonds. So what typically happens with these retirement target date funds, and you could do it yourself if you want to keep it under your control, is that later what happens is you would move to more bonds, less stocks. And if you look at some of these target date funds, they pretty much tell you what kind of distribution they have, so that might not be a bad. If you wanted to not just do a target date fund, you could do it yourself, but you want to balance it. Balance means how much of each kind of investment you have. So later, just leave it in the same target date fund. If you want to be a little bit more risky, you could just use a later target date, so it fakes it out and thinks you're going to retire later. If you're more conservative, you could use a target date fund that's earlier than you actually plan to retire. Okay. Now, anything with stocks and bonds, they're not guaranteed. There is a quite a bit of volatility associated with it, and that's one reason why they want you to move out of stocks and more into bonds, because bonds are more stable. Okay, so that's for right now. If I think of something else, I'll do this. Yeah, I'm not going to say too much about car purchases. Just what's my advice? My advice is keep your car a while. Keep buying a new car, trading your old car. It's and with the reliability that cars are these days, you can have a car for a long time and still have it be reliable. The advantage of getting new cars, improvements in gas mileage for right now. I guess you'll have to decide upon that, depending upon the price of gas. One thing is, your interest rate you're charged is related to your credit score. So the things that you can do to improve your credit score or keep your credit score good is going to help you in other situations, whether it's buying a house or buying a car. Okay, so insurance, health insurance, that's a loaded question. The one we talked about in class was life insurance, and you want to protect yourself and your family against possible catastrophic situations. So most people will say to, at least when you have a family, especially children, you want to have some kind of term life insurance. And so, what are the life events that would cause you to do this? Possibly getting married would be one of them, but the biggest one is having children. So that's if I ask you the question, what's the main reason for getting term life insurance? Probably children. So once children are gone and you paid for your house, hopefully, there's two things that happen. One is you don't need the insurance as much, and secondly, it gets pretty expensive as you get older. So, life insurance, you're probably talking about the time you have children until maybe 50, maybe a little higher. Okay. So a couple of things about home ownership. One is you got to be smart about the tax advantages. That's always changing, and they are not what they used to be as far as tax advantages are concerned. The tax advantages, you can deduct the interest, but there's a certain threshold you have to meet in terms of your deductions to make that worthwhile. And this year the deductible has increased. Unfortunately, the exemptions have been removed, so it's not as big a improvement as you think it is. So that's all I'm going to say is there could be tax advantages to home ownership, but be very careful about that unless you buy an expensive house and you live in a state that has high state income taxes and local taxes. It sometimes is difficult to see as much of a benefit. And as you pay the house off later in the life of the house, you're going to have less interest, so you're going to have less benefit from it. So just be smart about that. The other advice is to stay within your means. guess that's true for anything. You want to have some kind of plan. If both of you are working and one of them loses their job and either can't find a job for a while or finds another job that's lower paying, if you're just pushing the limit of everything, you're in trouble. I guess this applies for car ownership. Do your maintenance. You're spending a lot of money on this asset, and if you don't keep in good shape, you can't sell it as easily. So I'm going to pause for just a second, think about if I have anything else to words of wisdom. Okay, I have a few more things to talk about. So it kind of relates to savings, it's just investment. So we talked about this idea of what a mutual fund is. And a mutual fund is a collection of stocks and bonds. A lot of times just stocks and bonds. And the whole concept of mutual funds is associated with the idea of diversification. So rather than investing in one company, you invest in multiple companies that have different characteristics or different risks, so that if one fails and the others don't, then you minimize the chances for having a significant loss. And I think I read somewhere that there's probably more mutual funds than there are stocks out there in companies. But we were talking about these target date funds. A lot of times what they do is they take multiple mutual funds. So target date funds tend to be even more diversified than mutual funds. So this is multiple mutual funds. And maybe multiple bond funds. And then they, as we said earlier, that they change the percentage of those depending upon how close you are getting to retirement. I may ask, what is estimate? It doesn't have to be exact. Estimate the average return for stocks over, say, 60 years. And we were saying that was about 10%. Whereas something like savings accounts are significantly less than that. Okay, I think that's it as far as this particular test is concerned. So what you want to do is, how do you put all this together as far as for a cheat sheet? I've written things down. You might want to listen to what I said again, and if there's something that I said that is not completely explained by what I write down, then you might want to add some extra comments to it. But I think that's